Yes. It's the simulation. It's the simulation. Two more meetings.
Well, just a small thing. I suppose everybody has the translation prepared. No? If anybody have any trouble with the translation, just talk to me. Okay?
Good morning. Hello, good morning. I am here to reform the people in the internet, the people in Lithuania. It's working can you confirm please? It's working, the remote mode. Sorry, because we need some technician to attend this person because I think it doesn't work the remote connection. Cuando no estamos conectados. Por favor, alguien de la organización que busque a los técnicos porque no estamos funcionando. Creo que el micrófono está apagado. El micrófono de la sala, por eso creo que no podemos conectarlo. Manuel, por favor, no podemos conectarlo. Vale. Están haciéndolo. Bien. De acuerdo. Regarding the people here in the room, I can the microphone to translate the language English, Spanish, English. In northern InnovaConcrete workshops, we use the original language, the local language, and people, in this case in Cádiz, people cannot speak Spanish, they are going to speak in English, and we have the translation. I want to confirm that the translation is also working. That's the other point before opening the ceremony.
Probando. No, está apagado. Ahora, probando. ¿Sí? ¿Se escucha?
Por favor, alguien, Almoraima o alguien de la organización que conozca, que parece que no hay instrucciones sobre el uso del teléfono con los auriculares. Almoraima, que creo que ha sido la persona encargada, o alguien que conozca para explicarlo, por favor. No funciona. ¿Cómo que no funciona?
Sí.
Dicen que no hay teléfonos con los que no funciona, los iPhones.
Ah, no, eso es de la traducción. Con eso.
Eso, pero ¿quién está encargado?
Buenas. A ver, encontrarán dentro de las bolsas unos auriculares para conectarlo y descargar la aplicación para la traducción simultánea. La aplicación se llama Audio 6, ahora lo explicaré de nuevo en inglés. La verdad es que los auriculares son mini jack 3,5 milímetros. Si tienen un iPhone o similar, no van a poder conectarlo. Tendrían que escucharlo por cerca. So you have to install the application called Audio 6 from Audio 6. Porque hay una mano. Voy a decirle si le escriban en la pantalla.
personas que tengan iPhone no tienen conexión, deberían haber traído su propia conexión. Se envió un mensaje al parecer.
Probably.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We are having a little bit problem with the translation.
Yes.
But you have to. You can see here. Yeah.
Hello. Hello. I have some problems with the translation.
Okay.
Yes. I think we are going to start the opening ceremony. I am not sure if the problems with the translation is over, is finished. Could you confirm, please? Yes, it's finished. I know that we have a lot of foreigner people here that they cannot speak English, and in this case, in my way, I'm going to make the presentation in English, and I'm going to ask to the speakers that it's possible to make the presentation in English. If we have problems, I am not sure. ¿Está funcionando o no?
Es decir, el problema es que no tienen la información. Yo le he puesto en pantalla para que pongan el texto en pantalla para que puedan leer.
Okay.
Y dentro de un rato ya empiezan a tener la aplicación instalada.
Vale, ok. So, pero no la tienen instalada. So, my suggestion is we are going to start the opening ceremony in English, and don't worry, people you can speak in Spanish, no problem. That doesn't work. Yeah. Are you going to speak in English or Spanish? Spanish. Spanish, okay. Alberto? Spanish. English, of course. Yes. English and Spanish. No, English. No, Spanish. Okay. So, sorry about the system is working, and the problem is for some people in the audience. The problem is they don't have the connection with their phone. I think this is the only problem now, and the connection with the microphones. But so I'm going to introduce to the people, and the authorities here in the table. They are going to speak in Spanish or in English. Sorry about the inconvenience for the people that they don't have the translation yet. So thank you very much. We are going to start this opening ceremony for the final meeting of InnovaConcrete. I want to say thank you to all people here in this room, because we have a very, very difficult time with the pandemic situation in Europe and the United States. Some of the people here, they are coming from different countries, even the States, even other European countries, and thank you very much. And thank you to the people in remote mode, because we have a lot of people, we have a lot of audience, around 200 people in this meeting, and thank you so much. First, I would like to present to the people, the authorities, the local authorities and the international authorities today here with me. First, I want to present Rin Alatalu, what I think is okay. She is the vice chair of ICOMOS. ICOMOS is one of our partners in the InnovaConcrete meeting, and they are going to present today a very, very significant document for Cádiz and for all people that they are interested in the conservation of historic concrete. Another person in this table, another authority, is Evelyn Ratche. She's our officer in the project, the officer from European Commission. Thank you very much for coming to Brussels for this meeting. And we also have to Alberto Cremades. He's the innovation local authority in Andalusia, in the region of Andalusia. Thank you very much, Alberto, to be here with us. The next person is Don Diego Herrera Plata, General Secretary of the Cultural Heritage in Cádiz. This is from the Andalusia government as well. And finally, we have to Isabel Suraña. She is the president of the architect school in Cádiz. Thank you for your presence in this action. Thank you very much. First, I would like the first person in explaining to take is Rin Atalau, vicepresidenta de ICOMOS. Me gustaría repetir en español muy brevemente que las personalidades que nos acompañan son la vicepresidenta de ICOMOS, Rin Alatau, muchas gracias por tu presencia, Evelyn Ratz, que es nuestra officer, nuestra proyecto officer, que viene de la Comisión Europea, don Alberto Cremades, delegado territorial de Empleo y Transformación Económica de la Junta de Andalucía, don Diego Herrera Plata, secretario general de la Delegación Territorial de Cultura y Patrimonio Histórico, y doña Isabel Suraña Fernández, que es la decana del Colegio Oficial de Arquitectura. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí para inaugurar esta última reunión del proyecto InnovaConcrete, proyecto europeo financiado por la Comisión Europea. Doy la palabra a Rin Alatau, the Vice Chair of ICOMOS.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and represent ICOMOS, as ICOMOS has taken this project with great concern, and we are very, very happy to be the partners in such a project, and I'm very happy that there has been so much enthusiasm also from behalf of ICOMOS to participate here. I think as a heritage expert community, we know well that we have to be at least one step, if not even more, ahead of public values or common values on what is valuable in heritage, and concrete, the heritage build of concrete is one very good example of it, because the general understanding of its values is not always there. The history of using concrete is quite long already, but I think for majority of us, concrete is connected to the quite recent past, and I think that is also one of the reasons why it is not so highly appreciated or well knowledged yet in the society. And even though in architecture we talk about brutalism and other architectural styles, we know that in society these periods are very much concerned of brutality of the society. And that is also an issue why we need more and more awareness raising and talking about this type of architecture to highlight also its values of innovation and creativity that is connected with the architecture. And I think also one big concern about concrete as a material is the ecological footprint. And I think as it already has quite a heavy footprint on Earth, it is even more important to take the concerns of climate change and sustainability and find the new ways how to treat it and how to repair it if needed. And this ecological footprint is another big concern of ICOMOS of previous times. And I'm very glad that this project runs very well together with many other initiatives of ICOMOS that I would like to highlight. Our work on the European Green Paper together with Europa Nostra. That was a response to European Green Deal to analyze the concerns of Green Deal and its involvement with heritage. And the other document that I would like to highlight, and which I think goes very well together with what we are talking about today, is the quality principles of EU funding with a potential impact on cultural heritage. So I see the principles go very well together. And having recalling these other initiatives of ICOMOS, repeat that ICOMOS is very, very happy to be the partner in this project, and I'm looking very much forward to the results that are going to be presented today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lee. Doy ahora la palabra a la decana del Colegio Oficial de Arquitectura, Isabel Suraña Fernández. Buenos días, ¿se escucha?
¿Se escucha? Buenos días. Good morning, buenos días. In first thing, to congratulations to UCA, University, Docomomo Ibérico, ICOMOS, and the responsible team of the InnovaConcrete, to get an important financiation to concrete investigation. To speak of concrete, it's a speak of the architectural history in the two last centenary. I followed my words in Spanish, excuse me, and the translation is Haspel. Hablar de hormigón es hablar de historia de la arquitectura de los dos últimos siglos y lamentablemente nos enfrentamos hoy a una dualidad respecto a este material que tantas alegrías nos trajo y hoy se concibe como un material no sostenible. El uso del hormigón debe reducirse irremediablemente es un hecho. Las extremas temperaturas de los grandes hornos que se usan para quemar el clinker junto con las emisiones de CO2 de su fabricación inciden en el calentamiento global, y en una época en la que la construcción se ha multiplicado fuera de la necesidad de la lógica hoy por hoy, tras un abuso hacen que no sea un material apto para nuestros días y se está trabajando en nuevas técnicas como el hormigón verde, que os animo a investigar. El hecho de que este congreso ponga en valor este material desde la consolidación del patrimonio con el que se construyó, no ya como un material en sí, sino como un hito en la forma de construir, un hito en la evolución de las ciudades, y no lo enfoca desde las bondades de seguir con su uso, muestra la sensibilidad que se ha tenido en esta convocatoria y en el fin del propio congreso, con el futuro de la humanidad. Para hacer unas breves reseñas desde la arquitectura, el hormigón revolucionó la construcción del siglo XX, en el que ya iniciado en el siglo XIX se extendió desde que se empezó a construir con estructuras adinteladas de piedra y que las luces con las que se trabajaban no eran grandes por la propia capacidad portante y de flexión de las piedras. Alguien pensó que podía descomponer la piedra, romperla y después volverla a cohesionar introduciendo antes una barra de acero que ayudara a la tensión de esa piedra. Ahí es donde nace el hormigón. Era un trabajo similar a la piedra en compresión, pero le aportaban con la armadura la tracción. Y empiezan a desarrollarse en el siglo XX ya grandes obras de arquitectura y de ingeniería con el hormigón armado. Y empieza a tener un valor de transformación de las ciudades. El hormigón, por tanto, se entiende indisolublemente unido al acero como hormigón armado para que nos lleve hoy a ponerlo en valor. Las fachadas de los edificios dejaron de ser macizas y pesadas gracias a pilares de hormigón y en vez de tener ventanas pequeñas empezaron a aparecer huecos grandes en fachadas y de una forma bastante económica. Y con un coste asequible, y se propició que en la posguerra se pudieran construir viviendas con mucha facilidad y rapidez y pudieron solucionarse la reconstrucción de muchas ciudades gracias al hormigón armado. A partir de aquí el hormigón se desarrolla y nos va dejando grandes obras de arquitectura e ingeniería que son patrimonio de la humanidad y que algunas ya recogéis en vuestros documentos. Aquí en Cádiz, por mencionar algunas, tenemos el edificio de Náutica, el edificio del Olivillo, que va a haber una visita guiada el día 4, en general todas las obras del arquitecto Sánchez Esteven, que eran principalmente hechas con hormigón, Puerto América, que también, si tenéis la oportunidad de revisarla, hay una gran estructura de hormigón en el puerto. La propia catedral también tiene base de hormigón, no es un material principal, pero sí el hormigón aporta su carácter de consolidación. Y aparte os voy a mencionar una serie de 3 edificios para quien tenga oportunidad de verlo: la Casa del Mar de Tarifa, en el municipio de Tarifa, el Colegio de San Juan Bautista en Jerez y la Iglesia de San Servando y San Germán aquí en Cádiz. Estas 3 han sido becadas por el Colegio de Arquitectos como obras con un gran carácter arquitectónico, la contemporaneidad del siglo XX y que tienen como base el hormigón. Y a partir de ahí nosotros también, con la intención de valorar este tipo de obras, hemos hecho unas publicaciones, hay exposiciones ahora mismo en marcha de estos 3 edificios y su base principal es el hormigón, en la línea en la que el mismo Congreso está trabajando, que es darle importancia al patrimonio de hormigón. La conservación del hormigón aquí en Cádiz es distinta a la de otras ciudades. Aquí en Cádiz tenemos un ambiente muy agresivo salino y el estudio de las patologías que podrán afectar a los que hagan el trabajo aquí en Cádiz va a ser distinto a cualquier otra situación del interior, porque aquí afectan tanto los vientos como la humedad, como el ambiente salino que nos rodea a toda la ciudad. Es decir, que hay mucho trabajo de investigación porque el hormigón puede presentar muchas patologías, aunque básicamente las centramos en 2. Las que son patologías mecánicas que afectan a un nivel estructural, que no sé si algún objeto de trabajo puede haber aquí, pero la otra es la que afecta a las características técnicas, a su descomposición, a su estética y a su conservación principalmente, y son más sencillas de tratar. Entonces, yo creo que va a haber aquí un gran campo de enfoque de los trabajos a partir de las 2 posibilidades que tenéis de estudiar patología con estas 2 grandes clasificaciones. No es un trabajo fácil estudiar las patologías del hormigón, puede haber causas internas y causas externas, es decir, que yo creo que habéis dado con un campo de trabajo importante y que se puede desarrollar para crear prontuarios al final que nos hagan tener muestras de cómo conservar el patrimonio hecho en hormigón. Vuestra empresa no es fácil. Alguien en la escuela de arquitectura me transmitió una vez que todo se puede rehabilitar, incluso se puede cristalizar un hormigón, es decir, que aquí tenéis el campo de trabajo abierto para imaginar cómo puede llevarse a cabo la conservación y la rehabilitación del patrimonio en hormigón. Y el hecho que queráis formar equipos multidisciplinares me parece correcto para que todo el mundo aporte a esta empresa su forma de concebir la arquitectura del hormigón, la consolidación o el margen que le dio a las ciudades para ponerlos en valor. Y esto que nos decían cuando estudiábamos los arquitectos en la carrera, que había que calcularlas con un periodo de vida útil de 50 años. Yo creo que ahora es el momento de demostrar que no tiene por qué ser 50 años, que se puede conservar, que tenemos ahora mismo avances para seguir manteniendo y conservando el hormigón. Y eso es lo que entiendo que podéis demostrar y os animo a todos a que investiguéis con toda la profundidad para conseguirlo. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Isabel, por tus palabras. Efectivamente, en el proyecto de eso se trata, de que el hormigón sea sostenible, que no sean 50 años, como han sido tus últimas palabras, sino que pueda mantenerse más tiempo, y especialmente en este proyecto que pueda ser considerado patrimonio histórico, como lo es muchas de las obras en hormigón. Has citado algunas de la ciudad de Cádiz, que estoy segura de que muchos de los que están aquí van a visitar, van a reconocer, y además vamos a tener la oportunidad que se proyecte ese patrimonio histórico de Cádiz en el mundo. O sea que muchísimas gracias por tu ayuda y colaboración de todo el colegio en todas estas actividades, especialmente en la visita que vamos a realizar el sábado. Muchas gracias. Doy la palabra en este momento al secretario general de la Delegación Territorial de Cultura y Patrimonio, don Diego Herrera Plata. Diego, adelante.
Good morning, bonjour, buenos días. Voy a continuar en español porque mi inglés no es bueno. Ante todo, quiero felicitar a los 29 socios de 11 países que están llevando a cabo esta investigación tan importante en cuanto a la restauración, al mantenimiento de los edificios de hormigón, y de manera muy especial a la coordinadora del proyecto, a la vicerrectora de Política Científica y Tecnológica, que está haciendo una labor fantástica en este sentido, tanto en este aspecto como en otros de la UCA. La Universidad de Cádiz es pionera en un montón de proyectos de restauración, de buscar soluciones técnicas a la restauración y a la conservación del patrimonio histórico. Para la Consejería de Cultura de la Junta de Andalucía, del Gobierno autonómico, es fundamental contar con las herramientas necesarias para proteger, para mantener, para conservar nuestro patrimonio. En este sentido, este encuentro final de Cádiz, de este importante consorcio en la investigación del hormigón, es fundamental en dos aspectos que nos van a llevar a dos cosas, a dos cuestiones. Por un lado, intentar convencer a la ciudadanía, realizar una labor social importante para intentar demostrar que el patrimonio histórico, que el patrimonio monumental, que lo que es digno de conservar, no solamente son los restos arqueológicos o los palacios renacentistas o los palacios barrocos, las iglesias barrocas, elaboradas con otro tipo de materiales considerados tradicionalmente como materiales mucho más nobles, sino que el hormigón como material constructivo también puede crear, sin duda alguna, arte. Y en este sentido, la labor del consorcio, el trabajo que estáis realizando, es fundamental para poder llegar a la ciudadanía y plantear que estos edificios de hormigón también hay que conservarlos y hay que conservarlos en buen estado. Muchos de ellos son patrimonio mundial, otros muchos han sido declarados ya como bienes de interés cultural, otros están protegidos a nivel de catalogación general. En definitiva, en la comunidad autónoma, en Andalucía, tenemos un amplio catálogo de edificios construidos en hormigón, o totalmente o en parte, que desde luego hay que proteger. Y por otro lado, este encuentro final que se celebra en Cádiz estos días va a servir para que la Administración pública, en este caso la Consejería de Cultura de la Junta de Andalucía, tenga una herramienta útil, una herramienta eficaz para, cuando encargue obras de conservación, de restauración, de mantenimiento de edificios de hormigón a los diferentes profesionales, pueda pedirles que apliquen ese documento final, ese documento de Cádiz, donde ya se recoge una guía muy clara, muy concreta, de cómo actuar ante las patologías que puedan presentar ese edificio. Mirándolo desde un punto de vista de la Administración, que tiene siempre que aplicar la ley de escasez de recursos económicos, es interesante, puesto que el dinero que se pueda ahorrar una vez que se apliquen estas nuevas tecnologías al hormigón puede servir para conseguir el otro fin, que es demostrar a la ciudadanía que merece la pena, que el hormigón, que hay obras de hormigón que son dignas de ser consideradas patrimonio histórico y, por tanto, de catalogarlas como tal, y de esa manera hacer que las inversiones puedan ser lo más eficientes posibles, como es obligación de cualquier administración pública. No me voy a extender mucho más porque quedan unas jornadas muy interesantes por delante, pero sobre todo desearles que disfruten de estas jornadas, que los arquitectos, los ingenieros, los restauradores que se dan cita en este congreso, en este encuentro final a nivel mundial, los que están presencialmente aquí puedan disfrutar de una ciudad tan absolutamente maravillosa como Cádiz, y desearles que las conclusiones de este encuentro final, de este final meeting, puedan servir para enriquecer todavía más el trabajo que llevan realizando desde hace tantos años. Así que muchas gracias y disfruten ustedes del Congreso.
Muchas gracias, Diego, por tus palabras y por vuestro trabajo desde la Junta. Y es una satisfacción lo que has dicho, lo que nos has expresado sobre el interés de la Junta de Andalucía, el interés de nuestras autoridades locales y regionales sobre el documento de Cádiz. Creo que va a ser un antes y un después en la conservación del patrimonio en hormigón, y trabajaremos juntos, no me cabe la menor duda, con sinergia, para que ese tratado y para que todos los resultados del proyecto InnovaConcrete lleguen a España, a Andalucía y en general a todos los gobiernos de europeos, para que a partir de ahora cualquier obra que se haga en hormigón sea considerado que lo que sea patrimonial sea tratado como tiene que hacerlo y como mandan este tratado en conservación del hormigón. Muchas gracias, Diego. Now, the next speaker in the table, la próxima autoridad que va a dirigirse a ustedes es el delegado territorial de Empleo y Transformación Económica de la Junta de Andalucía, don Alberto Cremades. Muchas gracias, Alberto.
Hello and welcome to everybody. My English may not be good enough for a speech, so I'm sorry, but I'll do it in Spanish. Promise it will be very short. Lo primero, aplaudir la celebración de esta jornada. Los que creemos en la I+D estamos siempre apoyando cualquier acción que es encaminada en esta dirección, y agradeceros a la UCA que me hayáis invitado a la presentación de la misma. Tenemos, los que creemos en la I+D+I, siempre el foco puesto en esto, y nos duele cuando vemos que el Gobierno central destina poco más de 200 millones a la I+D a nivel de toda España, de luego que a Andalucía llegarán poco más de 30 millones. Pero aún así, nosotros vamos a elevar el presupuesto de este año para todo lo relacionado con la I+D+I un 6%. Eso os dará una idea de la apuesta tan grande que hacemos nosotros por la I+D+I. Yo me inicié profesionalmente en la I+D+I del automóvil y sé perfectamente los resultados que puede dar en breve plazo, a medio plazo y a largo ya ni os contaré. Así es que por nosotros el máximo apoyo a la UCA para todo este tipo de acciones. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Alberto. Como le dije a Diego, con vuestra consejería ocurre lo mismo. Trabajamos muy bien con vosotros, lo seguiremos haciendo y especialmente en este tema de patrimonio también y de innovación en patrimonio contaremos, como no me cabe la menor duda, con tu apoyo y con vuestra ayuda. Muchas gracias. Now the next speaker in the table is our officer, the officer of our project. You know that is a project funded by European Commission, and we have a person in charge in Brussels from all the activities regarding with our project, with InnovaConcrete. And now is Evelyn Ratchner. This is the project advisor, the project officer. She's your turn, please. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the European Union to this conference. New challenges in preventive conservation require a collaboration and exchange of highly specialized research and the latest technological advances. This conference enables such a collaboration. I would like to thank the organizers for their efforts in arranging the event and praise them for arranging such an interesting agenda for us, as well as the hybrid mode so others can join us online. Cultural and cultural heritage are given high priority as part of the current European policies. European cultural heritage constructs elements of a positive European identity when acknowledging its composite nature, its inner differences, and the related local, regional, and national values. A recent Eurobarometer survey shows that more than 8 in 10 European citizens think cultural heritage is important to them personally, and 8 in 10 think cultural heritage is important for the European Union. Combining innovation with heritage in the title of the conference points to the fact that cultural heritage has an inspiring and creative role in present European societies and communities. Research and innovation are needed to better protect cultural heritage from natural or man-made destruction. Innovation in cultural heritage is the intersection between old and new, between physical and digital, and between disciplines. Cultural heritage is a limitless source of innovation where traditions meet with cutting-edge technologies. Some of these cutting-edge technologies will be presented at this conference. And while cultural heritage is very much part of the story of the European success, it is also a global phenomenon. EU therefore remains very committed to support cultural heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, with the attendance of experts with different backgrounds, many beneficial ideas and experiences will be shared at this conference. With an interesting agenda ahead of us, I look forward to the discussions and presentation in the next 2 days, and I hope you will all enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I am going to be very short interview because now I'm going to present the overview of the project. Just only I would like to say thank you very much again. Thank you very much, especially to European Commission, because this was a project created here at the University of Cádiz with a high number of partners, different partners with different countries, and the European Commission create in this project. I'm going to speak now in Spanish, and quiero decir muchas gracias a todos, sobre todo y especialmente a la Comisión Europea, por creer en este proyecto, por apoyar, financiar este proyecto que se escribió desde la Universidad de Cádiz, pero con las aportaciones de un número importante y significativo de socios. Quiero decir que es un proyecto que se financia desde un topic relacionado con nanotecnología y materiales innovadores, y por eso el objetivo fundamental es el desarrollo de materiales innovadores para la conservación del patrimonio histórico, pero no olvida en ningún momento sus otros grandes objetivos, que son objetivos sociales relacionados con la sensibilización, con la conservación del hormigón. De poco sirve que desarrollemos grandes tratamientos muy innovadores, si realmente nuestra sociedad no percibe al patrimonio en hormigón como patrimonio. Todo el mundo, y en este proyecto, a lo largo de estos 2 días, se van a desarrollar, se van a presentar muchos de los resultados, y uno de ellos son las encuestas que se han realizado. Y no existe una percepción en toda la sociedad sobre los edificios de hormigón como patrimonio histórico. No es así. Muchos de ellos no se consideran, a pesar de ser grandes obras ya reconocidas por nuestros expertos. Por eso, una parte importante del proyecto ha sido la sensibilización en torno a la conservación del patrimonio. Y quiero destacar, lo voy a hacer también ahora, porque voy a presentar una revisión, un resumen de estos resultados, pero quiero destacar que en el día de hoy, mañana será el día de los resultados de la tecnología, de la conservación, de la parte más técnica del proyecto. Pero hoy es un día dedicado a los aspectos, a los resultados sociales. Y tenemos 2 grandes presentaciones. La primera es el documento del Cádiz, que ya habéis mencionado varios miembros de la mesa. I want to say thank you very much to ICOMOS, because ICOMOS prepared this document. And thank you very much because the title of this document is el documento de Cádiz. Previamente a este tratado hay otros tratados. El primero, muchos lo conocerán ustedes que trabajan en la conservación, fue el Tratado de Venecia. A continuación, ICOMOS, y no hace mucho tiempo, ha presentado los tratados de Madrid y Nueva Delhi sobre la conservación del patrimonio histórico. Y ahora hay un documento, un tratado especialmente dedicado a la conservación del hormigón, que siempre su historia quedará ligado a la ciudad de Cádiz y a nuestra universidad. Por tanto, muchas gracias. También destacar la presentación que se va a hacer en el día de hoy de los 100 monumentos del siglo XX. Con todo ello, quiero decir, y ahora lo haré en la overview, que tenemos un gran proyecto con muchos resultados, muchos de ellos resultados que no eran esperados en la propuesta, porque muchos de vosotros, socios de InnovaConcrete, habéis ido mucho más allá. Perdón. Y con ello quiero decir, por ejemplo, dándoos ejemplos, la propuesta del proyecto era evaluación en 8 casos de estudio. Pues uno de ellos se restauró completamente con las soluciones InnovaConcrete. No se quedó solo en la evaluación de determinadas áreas, sino se realizó una restauración completa. La propuesta del proyecto era llegar hasta el plan de negocios de varios productos InnovaConcrete. Pues tenemos ya un producto en el mercado, un producto de la Universidad de Creta, y otro producto desarrollado por la Universidad de Cádiz se encuentra ya en la fase última para explotación por parte de la multinacional SICA, que también hoy nos acompaña y es socia del proyecto. Además, hemos desarrollado muchas otras actividades, más de 100 actividades de diseminación, de training, de sensibilización a la ciudadanía. Hemos creado una spin-off de la Universidad de Cádiz que se dedica y cuyo objetivo es la promoción del turismo y de otras actividades socioeconómicas en torno al hormigón histórico. Tantas y tantas otras actividades más allá de nuestros objetivos en la propuesta que hoy vamos a presentar, que esperamos que sirvan, que confirmen la importancia del hormigón, del patrimonio histórico en hormigón, y sirvan a la sociedad, a la comunidad, para conservarlo, para conservar este legado tan importante. Sin más, muchas gracias a todos y continuamos con la sesión. Muchísimas gracias. Y queda inaugurado la ceremonia, la apertura de este final meeting, de esta reunión final de InnovaConcrete. Muchas gracias. We are going to take a picture here with all the members of the table. Change. Por favor, ¿puede venir alguien a ayudarnos para colocar la presentación? Esto nadie yo estoy súper agobiada porque no me siento aquí sola, nadie, ¿sabes? Tengo que llamar cada vez que necesito. Pero yo voy a hacer ahora una presentación de porque tengo que dar pruebas. No puede ser, tenemos que empezar. Yo necesito poner la presentación que tengo aquí. Si me puedes ayudar, te lo agradecería muchísimo. Una carpeta, necesito toda la carpeta, está abierta aquí, ya está. Pone abuso. Esta que está. La carpeta porque tiene vídeo. Pero copia la tijera. Pero puedo decir, no puedo disparar.
Things in Germany,
conservation expertise with a common set of heritage.
La carpeta y aquí tiene todo lo que...
Vale, la bruso presentación. Vale.
Entonces, si te vas al Meet...
¿Lo puedo abrir ya? ¿Lo abro?
Sí, ábrelo. Ah, pero son PowerPoint, no son vídeos.
No, es un PowerPoint, pero tiene vídeos incluidos, integrados, pero no tiene sonido, solo
sí,
uno.
Lo único que no vamos a tener sonido.
No pasa nada.
Vale, perfecto.
Entonces, ¿ahora qué hago?
Ahora lo pones en pantalla completa, presentación. Ahí va.
Y le doy... ¿Esto lo puedo ocultar o no?
Sí, eso ocúltalo.
¿Tú lo vas a lo tienes compartido?
No, deja de compartir.
A ver, ¿por qué?
Es que iba a hacer una... Y ahora pinchas el Meet.
Sí.
Y das a compartir. Compartir, aquí.
Sí.
Toda la pantalla.
Sí.
Pincha ahí. Pincha compartir. Y nos vamos al vídeo. Pincha aquí. Innovación.
¿Ya está compartido? No,
sí,
no
ahora
está.
lo vamos a pinchar.
Avísame cuando esté. Hello again. I'm sorry for the line. Just according to the program, now just I'm going to present. Micrófono está abierto. Sí. It's open, Gani. No, it's open. It's open, but it doesn't work. Now it's okay. And please, we have the presentation in the remote mode. Do you have? ¿La presentación está en modo remoto? ¿La estamos compartiendo? ¿Sí? ¿Puedo empezar? Gracias. Good morning again. According to the program, I'm going to present now a very short overview of the project. Next, we are going to present the document of Cádiz. InnovaConcrete project. InnovaConcrete project is a project funded by European Commission, the program Horizon 2020. The work program was nanotechnologies and advanced materials, and they implemented a topic regarding to innovative solutions for the conservation of 20th century cultural heritage. It was, the funding from European Commission was around 7 million euros, and the duration, it was programmed for 3 years, but due to the pandemic situation, we need to extend it, the activities 1 year, additional 1 year. InnovaConcrete, it has a very clear ambition. This is to develop advanced materials and techniques for conservation of cultural heritage. But also, we want to create awareness regarding to the importance, the significance of historic concrete. In addition, the third and significant ambition of the InnovaConcrete is the effective market uptake of technical solutions developed in InnovaConcrete. Okay, so this is a video, but we have a short time. I am not going to present a video regarding to the InnovaConcrete. I would like to remark who is InnovaConcrete. InnovaConcrete, they are 29 partners from 11 different countries, and the significance of this big consortium is that we have an interdisciplinary, balanced expert panel. We have cultural heritage stakeholders, and we have also people working in materials, experimental researchers. We also have multi-modelers, and also architects, engineers, and significant people working in cultural heritage. These all people, they are working together to create, to promote all the targets of InnovaConcrete project. Here you can see the work package of InnovaConcrete, and we have 7 work packages, and you can see here the idea, the targets of the objectives of the InnovaConcrete. We produce different materials, and these materials were optimized by the multi-scale modeling. These materials were characterized in laboratory, and also in different case studies. This is the in-situ validation. We also have different activities and other activities regarding to the awareness of historic concrete. The idea of this project is bring the materials, the InnovaConcrete materials from laboratory to the market. In the starting point of the InnovaConcrete, we have a TRL Associate 4, and the target was TRL 6. But I would like to remark that we have in another higher TRL now, because we have products in the market, 1 product in the market, and we have also the complete restoration of one of the case studies of InnovaConcrete. Here, the next question is which the InnovaConcrete materials are. This is very short description, because you have tomorrow the day dedicated to explain the InnovaConcrete results, the InnovaConcrete materials. The most important, the significant advance in InnovaConcrete is that we produce materials with the same components that the concrete. You know, concrete is composed of calcium silicate hydrated gel, and we produce, this is the responsible of engineering properties of cement, and we are able to produce this material in the cracking of the concrete, in the cracking of the cement. Here you can see different images with the production of this CSH gel in the pores, in the cracking of the material. We have a complete compatibility between concrete and our components. We produce the materials with a salt gel process. That's the reason we apply like a liquid, and the liquid going down inside the cracks, inside the pores of the concrete, and spontaneously the polymerization take place. Here I would like to show a video. Here you can see the consolidation. If you put not concrete like sand, if you have sand, and you put the salt, the liquid, the InnovaConcrete solution, when you mix, you are going to obtain effective consolidation. You are going to obtain a solid material. Just the same procedure, this is the procedures taking place in the crackings in the decayed concrete. We are producing the same material. This is the effective consolidation of the sand. That just is the same that you are producing in the cracking of the decayed buildings. Here you have another solutions in InnovaConcrete. We, in this material, in this impregnation treatment, we include another components like the smart nanostructures releasing corrosion inhibitors. This is very, very special, very innovative way, and we are going to present the results tomorrow. We also produce superhydrophobic materials with self-cleaning performance. We obtain these superhydrophobic materials by two different routes, the chemical route and the plasma atmospheric device, by using a plasma atmospheric device. We produce a nano-roundness on the surface of the concrete, and this is producing the superhydrophobic, the repellence properties on the surface of the material. Here you can see a video with the self-cleaning ability of our material. This is untreated concrete. When you put a stain like a methylene blue, this is the result. And here, when you have the superhydrophobic concrete with our product, the water droplets, they are completely removed. Tomorrow, you have the opportunity to check our demonstrations here alive in the hall of the InnovaConcrete results. And this is another video regarding to the same effect, but here with wine droplets. They are spread on the surface of the untreated concrete, and this is not, this is a permanent stain, but when you put the wine droplets on the superhydrophobic surface, you have a complete remove of the stains. This is the work of InnovaConcrete materials. Another significant advance in InnovaConcrete, they are biomaterials promoting concrete self-healing. We also have halosite nanotubes in cementitious materials, different nanotechnologies, different approaches to produce the preservation of concrete materials. This is a slide just regarding to the multi-modeling use. Basically, the multi-modeling optimize the products regarding to the penetration depth of the products, and also and especially to the gelification of our materials producing CSA gel inside of the pores of the decayed concrete. This was the role of the multi-modeling package in our project. Regarding to the experimental validation at the laboratory scale, we test around 680 mortar specimens. I want to remark that the specimens, the mortar specimens, were subjected to different degradation, physical degradation, chemical degradation, mechanical degradation, and we test our products in these conditions with a complete different performance and durability test. Next, the next step of InnovaConcrete was the choice of the monuments to be validated. We have an original choice, and after, in the starting of the project, we added 2 additional monuments. You can see here the different monuments in different countries around Europe. And another significance of the choice of InnovaConcrete was we have very, very significant monuments like Centennial Hall in Poland or Eduardo Chillida sculpture in Gijón, but we have Otorroja building in Madrid, but we have another that they are not significant for citizens. For example, the train station in Warsaw or the war memorials in Italy. The idea is to create activities around these historic monuments in order to promote the awareness around the historic concrete. Another important and significant monument was the Flaminio Stadium. Flaminio Stadium and 9-4 Kaunas, Lithuania, they were the two monuments selected in the starting of the project. Previous to validation in situ, our consortium validated the InnovaConcrete solution in a significant number of mortar specimens of mock-ups created according to the characterization of composition and texture of our monuments. We produce mock-ups with the same characteristics, and we test in the laboratory the solutions, the InnovaConcrete solutions. Here, I would like to remark some very short results regarding to this validation in situ validation. Previous to the validation in situ, we proceeded to the cleaning with innovative materials. This is the case of the Elogio del Horizonte in Gijón, the cleaning in Elogio del Horizonte. And we also use very innovative techniques to test the validation of our products in the case study. In this case, for example, is the implemented crack monitoring system used in various monuments in the InnovaConcrete project. We can test the reduction of the cracks on time, and we can study the effectiveness of our impregnation products in concrete. And here let me see just only a video regarding to the presence, the effectiveness of superhydrophobic products in Kaunas, Lithuania. After 18 months, you can see here the test, the durability test, and you can see here, this is just the wall of the Kaunas, Lithuania monument, and here in the untreated wall, this is the effect of the water. The water is absorbed in the wall, and when you put the same test in the water, in the tested area, here you can see that in this area, the water, you cannot see the water because it's the repellent effect. I would like, after 2 winters in Kaunas, Lithuania, after the ice, the presence of ice, the presence of different environmental aggressive conditions, the InnovaConcrete product is working. And finally, I would like to remark that the importance of the significance of citizen awareness on concrete heritage, more than 100 different dissemination training activities were carried. Here is what Jean-Enrique Paquet in Brussels presented the results of InnovaConcrete project, different activities like in Gijón, in Madrid, virtual tours, even some activities with ICOMOS partners in the United States, and very complete different activities for training, for dissemination in Europe and in other countries. Today, later, we are going to present the final selection of the 100 monuments from the 20. We are going to present in Jerez today. And we are also to remark that the importance and the significance of the next step of the project today, the next activities to the presentation, the international presentation of the benchmark guidance to conserve historic concrete. This is document of Cádiz. And regarding to the conclusions of this document and the ideas and the other partners, we create a decision-making tool to conserve the historic concrete. And I would like also to remark another activities, socio-economic activities, and effective market update of the product. Just in the end of my short talk, I would like to remark to have in the brochure, but this is the main results of InnovaConcrete. In the case of scientific and technical results, we have 9 conservation products and 1 application technicals. They are optimized by simulation. We have 1 product in the market, surf pole, and we have 2 impregnation treatments produced by CSA gel technology with commercial exploitation agreements. Also, we have a promising enzyme-assisted method for self-healing of cement. We have evaluated in more than one samples at laboratory level. We have evaluated our technologies on 8 case studies, and 1 of them was complete restored. That's very significant for the project. And a decision-making tool on concrete conservation is over. Regarding to the social results, I would like to remark the 100 different dissemination, training and awareness activities, a tool for touristic and commercial potential analysis of cultural heritage, concrete heritage has been launched, and a spin-off was created. It's a spin-off regarding to these activities. This is a spin-off from University of Cádiz. Selection of 100 more significant 20th century concrete heritage, and I want to finish my talk with the first benchmark guidance to conserve historic concrete, the Cadiz document. Thank you for your attention. This is InnovaConcrete, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. And now is the time to present the Cádiz document. This is the time for Gani Harbour. Thank you. Dejar de presentar.
¿Qué presentation?
No, Abruzzo presenta. Da igual.
I think they're having a little technical difficulty. I'll just start and hopefully we'll get that to work. Thank you, Maria. That was a great summary. My name is Gunny Harbo. I am the immediate past president of the ICOMOS International Scientific Committee of 20th Century Heritage, and we are one of the 29 partners participating in this incredible project. For us, when we began this adventure 4 years ago, we were very excited to have this opportunity. Our good colleague, Fernando Espinosa de los Monteros, of course, had good contacts here in Spain, and he brought this idea to the ISC 20C, as we call ourselves, and presented the idea that we could actually engage in a research project, which, to my knowledge, no or very few other ICOMOS committees had done to that point. And we saw it as a wonderful opportunity to collaborate and learn and engage, particularly with our members, to do something really positive and to be involved with a project that could actually make a big difference in the way not only heritage is treated, but in particular the way that we get people to think about heritage. And concrete heritage in particular is a difficult type of heritage for many people in the public to appreciate and understand. And we wanted to use this opportunity to do that, and that's exactly what our role was. We were very engaged with the workshops, and that was one public engagement method that was used. We were involved with the helping and planning of all of those, in particular the one in Cádiz, which unfortunately had to be done virtually. But our main task was the creation of this, what is now known as the Cubist Document. And we had a working group of about 20 members of our committee, many of whom are here today. If you want to raise your hand, if you're okay. And they ventured from very far and very near, so it was wonderful to get at least some of them to come and participate today in this final workshop. For me personally, it's been an amazing trip. The project has been interesting. I'm an architect in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a half European. I'm also a Danish citizen, so I could use my knowledge or thinking about the European condition a little bit to engage in it from that angle as well. But as a practitioner, as an architect who deals with heritage issues every day, I saw this as a wonderful opportunity. And what's interesting to me is how we have been covering this project is so multi-dimensional with the 29 partners, from the nanotechnology of the very, very deep dive of technology and how we can get something to change in the way we think about conservation of concrete, to basically the global idea of bringing people's awareness up and appreciation higher for this incredibly rich and important part of our cultural legacy. So, as I mentioned, I'm the past president of the ICOMOS ISC 20C, and our current president, Jack Pyburn, who was also a member of the working group and is an architect in Atlanta, Georgia. Unfortunately, he was planning to be here, but because of all the travel problems, he was unable to join us today. But we did ask if he would prepare a brief intervention so he could address you all in the role of president of the ISC 20C. So if they could play the video now, I would appreciate it. Take it away. Maybe they fell asleep.
Greetings from the 2021 to 2023 Bureau of the ICOMOS International Scientific Committee on 20th Century Heritage. On behalf of the ISC 20C, I'd like to formally welcome you to the final meeting of the InnovaConcrete project. The ISC20C is very pleased to have had the opportunity to be a partner in and a contributor to the InnovaConcrete project. We are all fortunate that the European Union sees the conservation of 20th century concrete as vitally important to its heritage and economy. The EU is a model for the rest of the world in this regard. The ISC20C InnovaConcrete Working Group of Experts in Concrete Heritage represent technically deep and geographically broad preservation and conservation expertise with a common set of heritage-based values. The curated 100 from the 20th diverse list of significant 20th century concrete architecture in the EU and the InnovaConcrete Guidelines for the Conservation of Concrete Heritage, the Cadiz document, provide a foundation for informed, thoughtful, and responsible stewardship. In addition to serving as a resource throughout the EU, the Cadiz document will be a valuable resource internationally. It will be incorporated into the conservation toolkit of the ISC20C's about to be launched new website, along with the ISC20C Madrid New Delhi document, the Getty Conservation Institute's publications on concrete conservation principles and thematic frameworks, and a wide range of international and regional resources. The final meeting of the InnovaConcrete project is a momentous occasion. It's the culmination of a lot of hard work by dedicated and talented people. The heritage benefits from the application of the Cadiz document will be evident well into the future. I'd like to thank the core ISC20C team of Gunny Harbo, Stefani Alande, Kyle Normandin, Fernando Espinoza de los Pateros, and the balance of the ISC InnovaConcrete Working Group for their contribution to the project. I'd like to thank the University of Cadiz for its leadership and management of the project. And I'd be remiss if I didn't invite you all who are not ICOMOS and ISC20C members to join and engage in our broad and important scope of initiatives. Best wishes for a successful and celebratory final InnovaConcrete project meeting.
Thank you, Jack. Is this on again or no?
Dani, ¿escuchas? Está silenciado.
How about now? No? Is it working? Is it working? Now can you hear me? No? No? Yeah. Okay. All right. So now I would like to present. Are they going to put up the slideshow? Hello? Fernando, can they put the So not only was Jack Piver not able to come today, but we're also missing Is there any way to, excuse me? All right. In addition to missing Jack Pyburn, we're also missing Stefania Landi and Kyle Normandin, who, along with myself and Fernando Espinosa de los Monteros, served as the four core leaders of the project from the viewpoint of the ISC20C. And it was the intention to include Stefania and Kyle to make the presentation for you today, but both of them were unable to come, again, due to the problems with the COVID. So I'm going to try to give the presentation that they would have given. We're very sorry they can't be here with us. So this, the idea of creating a benchmark document, as it's been called previously, and was included into the proposal that the University of Cadiz made for the InnovaConcrete project, was based on the idea that the ISC20C had created with what's now known as the Madrid-New Delhi document. This started in Madrid in 2014, I believe. There was a really wonderful conference that Fernando and some others had created to really look at the issue of 20th century heritage, architectural heritage in particular, and figure out what can we do to get people more sensitive to the issues that come up with more recent heritage. And out of that conference came what was known as the Madrid document. And that went through a couple of edits and improvements. And then in 2017, we expanded the concept to include all sorts of cultural heritage from the 20th century, not just architecture, but everything and anything that had to do with physical cultural heritage. And that's where the Madrid-New Delhi document came from. And then that concept was carried forward to say, well, maybe we can create a similar kind of a document that specifically looks at concrete and the issues involved with concrete. There are out there in the market, shall we say, in the very accessible now with the way that the internet works. There are a lot of good, really good technical information on concrete that's been well used and well known to those that are involved in this as a daily part of their business. And these are some of them here, including the recently created conservation principles for the concrete of cultural heritage, just done by the Getty Conservation Institute, which is an excellent document as well. But we've wanted to create something that was much more accessible. And now you all have a copy of this, hopefully in your hand, and you can see for yourself that the intent of it is not for highly involved engineers or architects that deal with this issue on a daily basis, but more about people that may find themselves in a situation where they are dealing with a cultural heritage site that is made of concrete and they've never had to deal with it before. What do you do? How do you begin to think about it? Is it the same as everything else, or has it got some different aspects to it? So we wanted to create a document that would begin to help those folks, owners, professionals, contractors, others that would be engaging with this heritage in a way that made sense so that they could have a fundamental understanding of what we're talking about. These are some other really excellent publications. There's a lot of articles and so on out in the web world that you can find, and these are two published documents, again by the Getty, that are very, very helpful in finding those. So our main aim was to give guidance for the conservation of concrete heritage with respect to its cultural, historical, aesthetic, social, and technological values that define its significance. Everything starts with the idea of why is something important? Why do we care? You know, what is it that gives it its significance? And this is no different than the way we think of all cultural heritage. We have to first establish why is it important, why should we keep it, and then from that you develop these other aspects. So with concrete, one of the biggest problems, of course, is the conservation, the physical, dealing with the physical problems that concrete has. And this is one of the main things, of course, that this whole project is trying to deal with. How can we come up with new intervention methods at a nano level that will help us to solve some of these problems that have been in existence since concrete, modern use of concrete began at the early part of the 20th century. So we broke it down into what the key issues were. It's understanding the history of concrete heritage, trying to understand the different kinds of problems that they have, the causes of deterioration and distress. What are they? What are the mechanisms for those? What are the environmental conditions? One of the reasons that we selected, added to the selection of the case studies, the ninth fort in Cádiz, was because there was a desire to have a place that was susceptible to winter conditions and also a salt environment. I mean, we had several others. The beautiful sculpture in Gijón is on the precipice of a cliff at the ocean, so it definitely has salt issues that are engaged with that. But we wanted to see they don't have the same fierce environment that you would get in Lithuania. So that was the addition of the ninth fort to see what other kinds of environmental issues are brought to the fore by having a site like that. We also wanted to look at the different kinds of power plants and other kinds of very big structures, down to beautiful and very delicate sculptural elements that are part of a building or even standalone part of a building. So we have the whole range of physical building types to deal with. We also have to be aware of how does concrete interact with other materials. As a modern building material, it was very often used with glass, sometimes directly related to the glass, sometimes with tile work, sometimes with metals, different kinds of metals. And all of those different materials have a way of interacting with concrete that needs to be understood and dealt with in a very specific way as you move forward in these conservation treatments. You also need to understand the previous repairs. I would say that it's very, very clear when you begin to work on a concrete building that someone's been there before you. It doesn't take very long, in most cases, for the concrete to begin to exhibit. Or it has had some other kind of physical damage, or there's a chemical attack of it from some kind. But you begin to see that there are problems, and those problems have been there for maybe decades. And others have come before you and tried to fix it, and they didn't necessarily do it in a very thoughtful way. And so now you have to undo or redo what was done before and make sure that you understand what did they do that they didn't make the situation worse. It's actually a very complicated and important aspect for concrete that's different than for many other kinds of heritage. So the document itself, and I'll go through this rather quickly. We'd like to get on with the panel. And you have the document, as I keep saying, so you can follow along, so to speak. But we wanted to create the significance. This is what you do with any heritage place. It's always the important first step of understanding why we should even be bothering with this. You want to get a team, an interdisciplinary team of experts. This is often a challenge to get the owner to understand that they need to pay to hire people that really know what they're doing. And it often takes several different kinds of people. It takes material scientists, it takes engineers, it takes architects, it takes technicians, people that understand how to work with the materials. And you need to get that team together. They need to have a good working relationship. As I mentioned before, here are a couple people. That's the site in Gijón where they're hanging out over the cliff, basically. It's a very beautiful and dramatic place, but it also makes understanding the environmental situation really important because of the way that it interacts with the physical fabric of the place. You need to do the initial condition assessment. And we'll hear more about this later tomorrow, I think, when we hear some of the specifics of the sites where this was done, and you'll get an in-depth view of that. But this is are mock-ups, making trial mock-ups, as we call them, is a really key element to this. And then, as I mentioned earlier, maintenance and monitoring. You have to take care of it. Once it's fixed, it's not fixed forever. It's only fixed as long as you take care of it. So it's like a plant in a way. You have to water the plant and give it fertilizer if you want it to do well. The same thing with a building. You need to take care of it. You need to check on it, make sure it's okay, make sure the water isn't getting in places it shouldn't be, and that whatever problems it has been exhibiting are not coming back. And if they are, you deal with it very quickly so that they don't have time to fester. It's a lot like, at least in my mind, it's a lot like having cancer. I mean, concrete has physical problems that if you don't deal with the problem, it'll just continue to get worse and worse and grow. So you need to really be on top of it and make sure that you're taking care of it. And then last but not least is to promote and celebrate concrete heritage. It's a very challenging thing. I'm involved not only with ICOMOS but also with Docomomo in the United States, and we spend a lot of time advocating, promoting difficult heritage, and concrete can be very difficult for people to appreciate. It's hard to hug, hard to love concrete sometimes because it's a cold material generally, even though it's beautifully used and it can be art in many ways. It's still very difficult for the average person to learn to love and appreciate concrete in the way that most of the people in this room do. So we need to do everything we can to try to get people to see it the way we do. So that's the brief overview of the document. As I said, you all have a copy now. I hope you dig in and read it in depth. And I think with that, we'll transfer right into the panel. We have a wonderful group of experts here from different places and different mindsets.
First of all, I would like ¿Se oye? A ver. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organization of this event, because I think it's... no, you don't hear. Now you can hear? Now you can hear? No? ¿Ahora? Sí. Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate the UCA University for doing this fantastic event as the last meeting of this huge project of 3 years or 4 years old. No? ICOMOS Committee of the 20th Century Heritage has been working, more or less 40 of our members, in many different countries. We have been working on the delivery of this patinas, that when you make an intervention on it, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I think, as I have been a practice architect for nearly 40 years, and I have worked so many times in heritage and sometimes in concrete, I have to say that the only three things you need to be a good professional is that you need to have a criteria clear of how you should work. Until now, there wasn't any criteria about the concrete heritage. So this is one of the reasons of why we decided to try to write one. The second thing you need is to be clear with the process that you are going to follow in the project. So you need to make a historic research, study of the pathologies of the building, archaeologic, materials, and so many things that complete the project. And the third thing you need is something that normally you cannot learn. You have it or you don't have it, and this is the sensibility to act in a monument or with a monument. This is something very difficult to have, but I think that only if you have, you can be working in heritage. In any case, the Cadiz monument has been a short text, based in the Madrid document text, and in others, very important texts, as the Carta de Venecia or any others, that in the end is trying to fix the way of working very carefully and a lot of sensibility in the concrete, which is, as I told you, a very difficult material to work with. I think in the end this text gives you the most general ideas that everyone can understand in a very easy way, because they are just written, I think, in a very easy way, with the sensibility and the knowledge, so that anyone can read it, can understand, and can apply it to his own work. And I think this is really the important thing of this book, of this document. I am sure it's going to be a very well-known document with time, and in 4 or 5 years I'm sure it's going to be translated to much more other languages and become, like the Madrid document, a text of reference and for anyone who would like to work with concrete. When we finished with this document, we decided to create a discussion, a panel of discussion in between peoples from different fields of the restoration and preservation of concrete heritage, to see what really they think about the convenient or not to use this kind of documents. I know there are many people that they think it's a waste of time doing these documents. No one is going to read them, no one is going to use it, for no one is going to be a reference. Of course, we think in the opposite way. We think it has a lot of reference, it can be a fantastic and useful element, and we are sure that many people will know it and will use it. But this is why we decided to invite some of our very good friends and fantastic professionals in different fields, so they could study, not with much time, and I have to be sorry about that, because we finished the document 2 days ago, but they have time to read it, to have a look to the document, and to explain us now in a short time what they really think about the document. So we can, after the exposition of the 4 of them, perhaps create a debate, a discussion is the most important thing to discussion. I'm sure they're going to see some silly things that we can discuss with them. So the discussion, I think, is important, and this is what we are going to try to create, a discussion about the convenience or not of using this kind of documents and what they think of what they have read in this document. We have invited 4 people. Professor, Gani will present each some of them, and not the other one, but I am just going to give the names. Professor George Haspel from Berlin, that I will present in a minute. Professor Peter Cox from Dublin, Ireland, that will be presented by Gani. Professor Francesco Romeo, that comes from Roma, Italy, and will be presented with Gani. And Professor Pedro Ponce de Leon, who is an architect from Madrid, and it will be presented for me. So, Gani, if you agree, perhaps you could begin presenting, I don't know, Peter Cox or Francesco, and we let them speak a little bit about this document.
Okay. And then we have a fifth member that wasn't able to come but did send a written intervention, which maybe I'll do after they all have had a chance to say their piece. Let's, sorry. I'll start with Francesco Romeo, who is our colleague from Rome. He is a professor of solid and structural mechanics at the Department of Structural and Geotechnical Engineering, DISG, at Sapienza, University of Rome. He has a degree in civil engineering, and he also got a master's degree at Johns Hopkins University in the United States while he was getting his PhD at DISG. He's a structural engineer. I could go on, but I would say that the thing that we were most interested in hearing from him is he is an expert in nervi, who is, if anyone knows anything about concrete, you know that Nervi is one of the most fantastic architect engineers that existed in the 20th century and created some of the most beautiful buildings, in particular stadia, that are at risk today, and he can comment quite a bit on that, I think. I think we should just introduce them and then they can do their interventions, okay? So, because then I don't have to keep jumping up and down. Peter Cox, and I just have that here, hold on. Peter Cox is a material scientist, and he is from Ireland. He has a degree in chemical engineering and a master's in material science. He works in the heritage area. He is the founding member of Cadiz Conservation International. He works all over the world, helping to determine characteristics and issues relative to materials, in particular concrete and masonry, what he calls porous materials. He doesn't deal with glass or steel, but all the other kinds of things that water or moisture can get involved with. He's also very active with Ecomos, and he's the past president of Ecomos Ireland, and the immediate past president of the International Scientific Committee of Energy and Sustainability, which is very interested now in the whole issue of climate change, and I'm looking forward to hearing his commentary about that. And I'll let you introduce the other two.
Yes. So I will present to the Dr. and Professor George Haspel. He's professor and study architectural and urban planning in Stuttgart, and history and art and empiric culture studies in Tübingen. He teaches heritage studies in the Berlin Technical University from 1992 to 2018, and he was Berlin State Curator of Historic Monuments, Landeskonservators in 2009. He has elected as Vice President, and 2012 as President of the Ecomos German Committee until 2021. He is founding member of the Ecomos International Scientific Committee of the 20th Century Heritage in 2006, and Preservations, this committee, and expert members of the Ecomos International Scientific Committee on Theory and Philosophy of Conservations and Restorations in the Committee of Theophilosophy. Since 2014, he has been changing the board of trusted in the German Foundation for Monuments Protection, Dodge Stiftung Denmark Laskusher. He is involved in research and publication projects on modern and metropolitan monuments and heritage sites, and he is a very good friend of me. This is George. Now I have to present Pedro Ponce de León, this man here in my left. He's a member of the Escuela Técnica Superior de Arquitectura de Madrid. He finished in 1980 and made archaeology missions in Jordania in 1980 and 1982. He belongs to the ICROM in the course of restoration, architectonic restoration in the Academy of Beaux-Arts in Roma, the Spanish Academy in Roma. He has done more 60 works in big monuments that, as you know, is the most level protection that we have in Spain. He made the PhD with a very high level note, cum laude, in 2014. He's academic of the Royal Academy of Historic from 2013. He is vice president of the Committee of Europa Nostra, of the Council members of Europa Nostra, and also from the committee of the Red List of Hispania Nostra. He belongs to ICOMOS, and he is now in the board of the National Committee of ICOMOS. His last work he's working with in the restoration and addition of the Museum de Prado in Madrid with Foster and Partners. So this is Pedro, and he is also a good friend of me. Of course, Francesco and Peter Cox, they are also good friends. So, I think, I don't know who wants to begin. I never mind. Francesco,
yeah.
Your turn.
Okay, so if you can hear me, first of all, thanks a lot for this kind invitation. It's really an honor to be here. And I think we are given very few times, so my purpose is just to raise, let's say, some awareness inside the already raised awareness about this topic we are sharing together. So it is really strictly linked to the structural aspects of all the topics we are discussing. So as far as this document, I find it very interesting in the sense that it follows the evolution of the guiding principle that should govern the conservation process. So in this sense is an extension, as Gani said, of the Madrid-New Delhi document, which actually I was able to apply for the conservation plan of the Stadio Flaminio, which is one of the case study treated in this InnovaConcrete project. So my main question is, okay, we have this ideal process, and of course it is meant to be for the general public, let's say, of all the stakeholders, so of course it cannot go into the details, but my main question is why, for instance, in Italy we do observe a sort of a tremendous amount of publication, historical publication, studies concerning with our masters of the 20th century. I'm talking about Nervi, Morandi, and many others, let's say, architect and engineer that created the masterpiece of architecture. And at the same time, their realizations, their projects are somehow in a bad situation. So they are not conserved at all. They are neglected from many point of view, not only material, but also immaterial. So they are not receiving the attention that the experts, somehow the historian, the architects are giving to them. So I think there are, the main reason is a sort of delay, which in Italy, for instance, is principally caused by the attention that is unavoidably given to the ancient conservation issues, so the masonry buildings have received a lot of attention. So if you go now today to the Institute of, the Central Institute of Restoration, the ICR, they don't have a standard for concrete yet. So concrete is not considered a material that is deserving conservation. This was happening 2 years ago, and I think it's still there, the problem. On the other hand, if you look at the structural codes, in Italy, for instance, we have some codes which are devoted to the heritage buildings in masonry. So as far as seismic vulnerability assessment, we have developed codes that hold for this type of structure. And if you want to use them for concrete, well, you have to force them and to derive from them the general principle that can be applied. So, as we all know, is the very demanding search for the trade-off between safety and conservation. So, when I read in this document as a sort of, how can I say, innocent sentence like this, manage pressure for change when related to structural safety, you are opening really a big issue. In this sense that what happens is that if practitioners have to follow the regulations, and they have to, they will, after 1 meter, they will have to stop talking about conservation because, for instance, in Italy we have seismic regulation which are very demanding. And so they have been somehow smoothed. They were made more reasonable for the masonry buildings in terms of non-destructive testing and the level of knowledge and the idea that you can only improve and you don't have to raise too many capacity requirement to the structural elements. For the reinforced concrete, this is not the case. So I would like just to remind you that the way you perform your analysis is crucial for the intervention that then you have to put in place. The main thing that I realized in my experience, at least with 2 of nervous structure, is that you have to go really in detail and to have full knowledge of the, for instance, the rebars, the joint, all the solutions, the technical solutions that were most of the time invented by those authors, and be able to somehow emphasize the capacity of the structure, which, after all, in most of the cases that I faced, is really behaving well with respect to the aging, because was conceived in a correct way, an exemplary way. And so despite of the maintenance, the lack of maintenance, all the interventions that were maybe not carried out with this knowledge, so that were somehow negative interventions. So in spite of that, these structures are still somehow reasonably safe. And so it's a matter of finding between among the codes the right path to make the right assumption. Okay, so that if you can make the usual assumption, and you will end up that you need bracing and FRP or whatever it is. But if you go in more detail, so it's of course is a more complex analysis. I think you can find the way to somehow justify a limited requirement of intervention. And this is to be crucial. This is happening today with the famous building, which is the stadium in Florence. And so I think that these topics have to face these somehow structural components that, after all, is the one that is in front of which authority can say, no, you cannot do anything. So you are stopped just because of the practitioner have to sign a document. And so the regulatory authorities somehow prevent any good intention that we are sharing today. So this is the reality. So that's what we are facing, and so I think that there are several levels at which we can act in this direction. So this one is a fundamental element, which is a dissemination of a cultural attention with respect to these issues, but also the owner, they have to realize that they can increase the property value. So this happened for me with Rome municipality. They were somehow not negative with respect to the listing, but somehow skeptical. So I had to show them that being listed, their property can increase value. Of course, there is a cost-benefit trade-off with the investors, because when you want to conserve, you're probably spending more. Again, the practitioner, they have to learn how to deal with this topic, which is completely new, because at the same time, reinforced concrete is everywhere, is aging. Most of the buildings are 60, 70 years old, so there is now a widespread use of patch repair or any other intervention, standard intervention, that cannot be applied to the monument of 20th century we are talking about. And then the last are the authorities. So we have to have this document accepted, or somehow, and they should endorse this kind of document in order to do a sort of moral suasion with respect to the code writers. And in this sense, the FIB, the Fédération Internationale de Béton, is doing a great job in the new Model Code 2020. There are many, many interesting points that are related to some technical choice that you have to take. Just to mention one is the service life of this structure. When you intervene on this structure, what is the service life you are expecting? It has to do with the return time of a period of the seismic excitation. So these are crucial points that deserve attention. So there is this trend towards a proactive activity in this respect, and I believe that there is room so this is somehow just the beginning, and again, I think that the structural component has to be taken in due consideration. But I'm positive after all. Thank you. Thank you.
Francesco, perhaps George, you would like to go on with your opinion?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to add one aspect which we already discussed when we adopted the so-called Madrid Daily Document, because we know that we do not believe, we do not only trust in paper, in theory, in letters, in books, in brochures, but we need the practice. And the question was, do we need additionally, or as amendment of the document, something which is a study of best practice case studies, how to repair, how to preserve, how to restore modern buildings, and in this case, concrete buildings. I think we do not only need a list of 100 iconic concrete monuments, we need also a list and a publication and an illustration of good practice of preserving it, of retrofitting it, of repairing it. And that is a gap. And that is also a challenge for us, I think, to convince people how to deal with it. It's not only necessary to let them believe in these papers, but to show them how it can be realized and to encourage it and to celebrate it as Gani has mentioned it. So this is only an additional aspect, but what I want to say is that I'm very happy that we have this paper, and I congratulate all who have contributed to the paper and to the whole project with nearly 30 partners from more than 10 countries. And I also would like to thank the host of this meeting and the initiator of the whole project, because from my point of view, at least in the frame of e-commerce, it is rather exceptional what has been done. So I think it is a very crucial addition and specification of the Madrid document which has been realized, and it is reaffirming the e-commerce calls for cultural equalization, for an equal treatment of modern heritage and also of brutalist and less admired heritage of post-war period, compared or to do it in a similar way as to the architectural achievements of earlier eras. But to the Cadiz monument, I would like to emphasize one current aspect, which is referring to a remarkable coincidence. Today, we are celebrating the InnovaConcrete project here in Cadiz, and in a few days, the first global joint conference of heritage experts and of climate experts will take place. It is initiated by UNESCO and by ICOMOS, and this meeting will focus on the threats to culture and to natural heritage from climate change. And we try to explore possible contributions of culture to the adaptation and to social resilience. And today, when we launch this paper of Cubist Document, we know two facts. The concrete age is part of the past, but it is far from being a thing of the past. The vast majority of new constructions worldwide are still based on concrete structures and on cement production, and there is no end in sight. And we also know that conventional cement manufacturing and concrete production are among the most important construction-related greenhouse gas causes worldwide. You can say concrete constructions are something like an environmental sin. It is a climate killer par excellence. And that's not an aesthetic question or an artistic question. It's not a question of taste and style and do we like brutalism or not, or concrete architecture or not. It's a question of survival. And we should emphasize the ecological role of existing concrete structures as well as of future structures. And I think this paper can be very helpful. I will give you only some figures. According to the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, 3 billion metric tons of CO2 per year are attributed to the production of cement alone. And in Germany, this is above 3 to 4%. Globally, it's above 8 to 10%, which is caused as greenhouse gases emitted by cement production. So I will not show more figures and facts, but I think the world needs to get away from concrete, and we should get away from concrete fast. But we know, instead of a reversal of concrete and cement production, experts predict a continuation and a concrete boom and a dramatic increase of CO2 greenhouse gas emissions in the coming years. So when we know that the main climate polluter in the construction sector and is the concrete production, we should try to avoid the concrete buildings and to reduce greenhouse gases. And there is a chemist, Karen Scriver, who worked in the French cement industry, and she became later a lecturer at the Swiss Federal Institute in Lausanne. And she was a co-author of the United Nations Environment Program in 2016. And her study makes clear, more than the smelting of steel, which is also a problem, it is the sheer volume of concrete production that needs an urgent change. And she concludes that concrete is here to stay and that it has, at least, it is the bad material we have, but it's not good, but I'm saying it's the least bad material. And so we have to keep it. Concrete buildings that exist are used and they can be converted, they can be repaired, they can also be redesigned, they can be energetically, structurally retrofitted and be reactivated, and to keep them is always more climate friendly than any new concrete building, and even it's more climate friendly than a low energy or a zero energy new building. Existing concrete structures may be assessed or disregarded as aesthetically and energetically unsatisfying, but from a greenhouse gas perspective, and with regard to the targeted climate neutrality by 2050 or 40 maybe, all of them are less damaging than any new constructed concrete structure. So now we know the amount of listed buildings is about 3 or 5% of the existing building stock. So it's a quantité négligeable, you can call it. And so the question arises, what is the role of heritage, of monuments in this global perspective? And I think it's a cultural and it's an educational responsibility which should be addressed. This also applies to the ecological role of monuments and sites and their cultural sustainability, and it's an ethical question of the role of monument conservation. There is no reason to believe that we can better meet the challenges of climate change by ignoring or neglecting the experience and potential embedded in concrete-based heritage. This is not a question of conservation ethics. It's not a question of principles like Venice Charter or Florence Charter, things like this, or of professional selection criteria. It is a chance, I think. It's a chance for cultural heritage scientists and cultural heritage managers, because they should provide a survival contribution to a sustainable development and to a climate impact adaptation. So for climate protection reasons, we are striving for an end to greenhouse gas emitting cement and concrete production, but preserving the existing structures of the concrete ages makes an important contribution to phasing out greenhouse gas emissions in general. And that is why this Cadiz document, the benchmark guidance document for conservation of concrete-based 20th century heritage, it does not only serve as a cornerstone for monument protection and rehabilitation of highly valuable concrete monuments in Europe, but it also offers a guidance for the rehabilitation and reactivation of mass and everyday architecture in concrete worldwide. And we have here the envelope of this brochure, which is Naviges by the Pritzker Prize winner, Gottfried Böhm. And this is an icon, of course. It's a felt World Heritage Monument. But we should care to the everyday life and to all the other buildings which are in concrete, because we should find ways how to deal with them, how to keep them, and that is why the InnovaConcrete project is so important. It's not only important because of heritage reasons, it is important because of fundamental interest of humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. I think it has been, we have speak about some very, very interesting point of views that probably we will be able to discuss a bit later, no? Pedro? Well, never mind. Peter? Pedro, perhaps you could explain something from your point of view as your experience as architect working in heritage, and also your experience as a member of those such important organizations in the world of the preservation of the heritage, which is Hispania Nostra and Europa Nostra. So,
buenos días a todos. En primer lugar, quiero agradecer la oportunidad de estar aquí y asistir a estas jornadas por invitación de Fernando, la universidad y el resto de organizadores. Pienso además que Cádiz es un marco excepcional para su desarrollo. Comparezco aquí un poco en representación de Europa Nostra. Quiero establecer una información previa respecto a esta organización y a partir de ahí también ver la relación con el mundo del patrimonio histórico relacionado con el hormigón. Europa Nostra agrupa más de 400 organizaciones activas en el patrimonio cultural europeo en más de 50 países. Entre organizaciones paralelas y organización propia hay 5 millones de personas involucradas y se creó precisamente en 1963 por la presión de Italia Nostra con su campaña de salvación de Venecia, que en buena parte ha podido ser posible gracias al empleo del hormigón como herramienta tecnológica. De las 400 organizaciones que he mencionado, 250 son asociaciones y fundaciones de carácter totalmente privado y otras 150 organizaciones tienen carácter gubernamental o bien asociadas a empresas con ánimo de lucro. Es una herramienta también de mediación con la Unión Europea, el Consejo de Europa y la UNESCO, y desde 2002 se convocan unos premios soportados por la Comisión Europea que promocionan altos estándares y habilidades de calidad en la práctica de la conservación del patrimonio, buscando el poder del ejemplo. El siguiente objetivo precisamente es América Nostra. A partir de 2013, a la vista de lo que estaba ocurriendo con el deterioro de muchos monumentos en Europa, se estableció un programa que era el de los 7 monumentos, 7 Most Endangered Places in Europa. Precisamente ha venido ocurriendo en los últimos años, especialmente desde 2018, que uno, como mínimo, de los 7 monumentos más amenazados de Europa tenía estructuras de hormigón o presentaba patologías directamente relacionadas con su componente derivada de usos de cemento, de hormigón armado, etc. Ejemplos paradigmáticos de esta situación han sido como en el 2019 un magnífico proyecto que es la piscina de Tapiola en Finlandia, que fue objeto de una ampliación que mereció un premio en el 2008, ha llegado a ser uno de los 7 edificios más amenazados de Europa por el problema de la corrosión del hormigón, por la presencia del cloro de la piscina y por cambios y alteraciones bruscas de humedad. En el 2029, el edificio E-Block en Oslo, diseñado por el arquitecto Erling Vigso en 1958, en uno de cuyos laterales hay un gigantesco panel de Picasso inciso y grabado sobre hormigón. El estadio de José Plesnik en Ljubljana es un pequeño estadio también con una pequeña aportación en estructuras de hormigón que también ha sido incluido dentro de la lista de los 7 sitios más amenazados. Y en el presente año de 2021, la central de correos de Skopje, en el norte de Macedonia, y precisamente en el próximo año ya está preseleccionado otro edificio en hormigón, que es el puente Zogu en Albania, en el río Mat, construido en 1927 por ingenieros italianos y alemanes. La calificación de estos sitios como más amenazados comporta la posibilidad de obtención de subvenciones para su rehabilitación y de préstamos a un interés prácticamente nulo. En cuanto a lo que he venido oyendo a lo largo de la asistencia a la mañana de hoy, no quiero repetir conceptos que ya han desarrollado mis colegas en la mesa y Gunny Herbo desde el estrado. Desde luego sí quiero hacer hincapié en la esencia del mantenimiento, del seguimiento y de la reutilización de los edificios en hormigón. Quiero además hacer hincapié en que, por esta razón, el análisis y el soporte técnico de la normativa internacional es esencial, así como el avance en los medios de diagnóstico no destructivos. En el caso del hormigón armado es aún más necesario, ya que se trata de 2 materiales pétreos y metálicos de muy diferente naturaleza y composición que interactúan y se complementan. Por último, decir que con el acelerado desarrollo industrial, nuevos agentes y compuestos químicos presentes especialmente en el aire y en el agua son potenciales agentes de deterioro que necesitan ser neutralizados. Y esta necesidad no está relacionada solo con el patrimonio histórico de los siglos XIX a XXI, sino también con otros elementos esenciales de la sociedad tecnológica e industrial que pretendemos que sea sostenible. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Pedro. Gracias, Pedro, por tu introducción y tus comentarios, que comentaremos más tarde. Peter, I would like just to have your opinion about this book, this document.
Great. Thank you, Fernando, and thank you, Pedro, for going in that time, because Jorg here stole a few of my lines about climate and things, but I'll expand a bit. Although I come from a material science background, I fully understand the material of concrete, and I've been lucky to work on some iconic buildings around over my time. But I'd like to endorse this document. I think it's really well kind of set out. It's simple, it's easy to follow. And I'd also like to thank everybody for inviting. It's great to see friends in person again, because it's been a while. But I suppose from a heritage sector, we're failing concrete by not listing or protecting enough of our buildings that are important, both historically, but it also from a technical point of view, because the early concrete buildings were testing ways of using new materials, how to get bigger spans of buildings, etc. And I think that is also important. So I think where we need to start is to try and encourage everybody to list and to protect more of our early 20th century concrete buildings. But from, I suppose one of the major things that we've been involved in recent times is looking at understanding carbon within the built environment. And we carried out a major study for Historic England in 2019, which took a number of different buildings. Now, unfortunately, because it was Historic England, they didn't choose a concrete building, which we would have liked to have done. But we took buildings from the 19th century up to the early 20th century, but mainly brick and stone buildings. And what we did was we took each individual building, we did an assessment of it as it is today, and there are two major, and this is one of the problems that we face when everybody started talking about NZEB, near zero energy buildings, is that they really just looked at operational energy. So what does it take to actually, use this building? And nobody thought about embodied energy or indeed embedded energy until recently. So what we wanted to do was take the whole kind of life cycle analysis, and we did this on, as I say, 4 case studies. And if you look at a building and measure its operational energy, its embodied energy, that's, let's say, older than 60 years, it's energy neutral almost, except for operational energy. If you do a light energy upgrade on that, or energy efficiency measures, you can reduce the operational energy, but you keep the embodied energy. You may introduce a little bit of extra embedded energy in insulations or in products like that. And then we looked at a deep energy retrofit. And then the final analysis was we demolished the building sent it to a dump site, and then we built a new building with new materials. And the analysis on that showed that it will take 63 years to pay back the carbon on replacing a building. Now, I reckon if we were to do that study, which I would love to do, and we hope maybe to get a group together to look at this and do a study on early concrete buildings, because of the intensity that you was saying of producing concrete and cement and steel. You know, the three main components of an early 20th century building is concrete, steel, and glass. And they are together the three largest contributors to CO2 emissions across the world. So if we can keep those and adaptive reuse of those buildings with minor extra carbon introductions, and there are more and more insulations coming out now that are carbon kind of less carbon intensive, so we can really make these work. And also, you don't have the extra thing of trying to energy upgrade a Georgian building or a very ornate, you know, European building with ornate interiors and plasters and cornices, and because mostly early 20th century concrete buildings are more simple in that you don't have those complications. So I think we should be also then using, you know, following on from getting more protection, we should be using this carbon argument for saving our buildings, our early 20th century concrete buildings. We touch on it in here, but obviously there's more to understand, there's more to know. And, you know, as we do further studies and hopefully get you know, funding, and luckily within Europe there is, you know, Horizon 2020 is this one, but we're now going into Horizon Europe, which is an even bigger fund. And I know from some of the meetings I've attended at European level that they are going to be looking much more at the whole carbon and CO2 emissions. And I think this is something that we, as an interested party in early 20th century buildings, should be really, really pushing the importance of carbon, because we are in a climate emergency, and there's going to be a lot of research money and incentivized money to do this. We in Ireland, the government introduced a climate action plan, which was one of the first in Europe in 2019. And for the first time we included cultural heritage, and this also includes early 20th century concrete buildings. And the government have now set a climate action fund, which they're going to start now releasing calls for research and for work to do this. And if we can get really good examples of and measurements on the amount of carbon, the amount of CO2 we're saving by looking after our buildings of the early 20th century, I think that is really the key to getting success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for giving us this different point of view. That is completely interesting, and at least I agree with it. No? It's very important what you have said. Gani, perhaps you would like to make any questions to these friends, or?
I wondered if I should make the 2 points that were shared.
Fantastic. Yes, for sure.
So we had invited actually several other people that couldn't come. However, one of them did send some comments. I'm not going to read the whole thing. but I would like to make two particular points. This is from Paolo Fazio, who is another structural engineer professor at the University of Venice, and our friend Stefania Landi, our colleague, kindly translated this. He apologized for not being here. He's read carefully the document and is pleased with its general tone. He has 2 points he wanted to make. The first relates to this issue of investigation and understanding the original materials of the building, and in particular, as has been also commented on by Peter and others, is that early 20th century concrete had particular aspects to it that are different than the way concrete buildings are made today, and understanding the materiality of that and how it behaves and all that is extremely important, and that we cannot underemphasize the significance of understanding what it is you're dealing with, both from a structural standpoint, but also just from a material standpoint. And the other major point that he made, which I think is also something Fernando touched on, which is the whole idea of how concrete ages and how we see it. We had some discussion also about last night about fair-faced concrete and the intention of the author, whether it's an architect or a structural engineer, about what those surfaces are. And that it's an extremely important issue, whether it's a building by Carlos Scarpa or a modern building by someone like the Japanese architect Ando. Those are really key things. And he says here, the progressive change of architecture with degradation phenomena accelerated by some characteristics of the building constitute a materiality that can be associated with the concept of patina, of historic buildings. It also involves a relationship with these architectures that is not exclusively linked to resistance and durability as commonly understood. The balance between conservation, safety, which was also brought up, and durability cannot therefore be delegated exclusively to technological approaches, however necessary, but it must be filtered through the understanding of the constructive content of the work and through a necessary and complex reflection on the authors and their use of materials. And then he has a very nice quote at the end. It must be remembered that during a conference in Vienna, Carlos Scarpa, who, in my opinion, and I think many others, is one of the greatest masters of concrete who ever lived, himself declared the concrete used in the Brion tomb would become better with the passage of time. And certainly his reference in that case was not about its mechanical properties, but more about the physical way that we see it. So that, again, emphasizing the visual aspect and the surface treatments of the concrete are critical to having a successful outcome when you are doing an intervention.
Thanks, Yanni, for these comments of our colleagues. I don't know if you would like to make any question, Yanni, to our friends, or perhaps there's someone in there that would like to. Yes, I see a question here. Someone has the microphone in the cell, please.
You want to just shout it out? I can do it on You would just tell me what it is, and I can say it again.
There is the microphone. There is the microphone.
Hola. 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 Bueno, lo primero es felicitar por el trabajo y por el esfuerzo, ¿no?, que se ha hecho para este proyecto de investigación. Desde mi perspectiva, en la arquitectura y en el ámbito editorial y de comunicación, lo entiendo también como un sentido de pertenencia. O sea, hay un momento en el que este tipo de situaciones pues construyen identidad también, ¿no? Por la gente que se une, porque siente determinadas cosas, ¿no? Alrededor pues, de este patrimonio, ¿no? De entender que alrededor de la arquitectura pues, nosotros construimos nuestras vidas, ¿no? Y eso forma parte de lo que somos. En ese sentido, pues, situaciones, por ejemplo, como las del Robin Hood Gardens, ¿no? De Alison y Peter Smithson, ese proyecto tan icónico también que fue demolido y tantas otras cosas, pues también nos afectan. Y bueno, de algún modo, encontrar gente, ¿no? con iniciativas de este tipo, pues es como sentir que uno no está solo, ¿no? Y se siente acompañado pues, en una manera de entender las cosas, ¿no? Que partiendo de la universidad, pues al final tiene calado en el ámbito de la empresa y tiene calado en el ámbito social, que como comentaban antes, pues cualquier persona termina viendo pues, esos edificios de hormigón como otra cosa que hasta ahora no lo era, ¿no? Hay algo interesante para mí pues, en la defensa de esos baluartes, de esos iconos de arquitectura, por un lado, pero el hormigón también representa para mí un material transversal que toca todas las capas, desde arriba hasta abajo, ¿no? Entonces, desde el comienzo del movimiento moderno hasta ahora, pues lo que tenemos es un parque inmobiliario impresionante construido alrededor de todo el mundo, donde el hormigón ha sido pues, el material fundamental, ¿no? No solamente tenemos los Robin Hood Gardens, por ejemplo, de los Smithson en Londres, ¿no? Donde el ministro, creo que fue de Transportes, ¿no? Fue el que decidió demolerlo, ¿no? Hablaban que era como una especie de rebelión contra la fealdad, ¿no? Pero tenemos periferias y periferias de ciudades que están llenas de hormigón y llenas de viviendas sociales, y la cantidad de producción que hay alrededor de eso es impresionante, ¿no? Hoy en día hemos visto como la Catón y Basal han sido los últimos Pritzker, ¿no? Donde uno de sus proyectos icónicos, que están convertidos pues, precisamente en casi una referencia que en el futuro será considerada patrimonio también, ha sido rehabilitaciones de torres de hormigones que hasta ahora eran consideradas tremendamente feas, ¿no? Y eran desdeñadas, donde en esa afrontación de esa relación con ese hormigón y con esa herencia arquitectónica, pues se ha decidido no demoler, se ha decidido consolidar y aplicar, pues bueno, la visión, digamos, más sensible con la gente y con la arquitectura que hasta ahora probablemente se había realizado, ¿no? Entonces, desde esta perspectiva, que tiene que ver inicialmente con un equipo de investigación que está trabajando sobre materiales, con arquitectos y otras disciplinas afines, entre las que hay historiadores, ¿no? Y personas que entienden eso como patrimonio, hay otra realidad que es extender esto desde esos iconos de arquitectura moderna hacia lo que es la producción natural, ¿no? De esa relación con el hormigón que se tiene hoy en día en cualquier estudio de arquitectura profesional. Desde esa perspectiva, por ejemplo, tenemos políticas gubernamentales como la rehabilitación preferente o tantas otras, ¿no? Que hablan simplemente de instalación de ascensores en viviendas sociales de los años 50, de los años 60, de rehabilitación de fachadas, etcétera, etcétera. Es decir, hay una extensión de la reflexión al ámbito, digamos, de todo lo construido, donde los modernos de los años 30 estaban pensando en cómo afrontar un crecimiento tan exponencial de las ciudades en todo lo que ha sido el siglo XX, y ahora, desde el 2020, tenemos otro tipo de responsabilidad, que es decir, ¿qué hacemos con todo eso que ya está construido, ¿no? Entonces, la pregunta pues, tiene que ver en cuál es vuestra visión desde las diferentes perspectivas que habéis planteado, disciplinares, ¿no? Sobre cómo esa realidad que ya está vigente y que está en marcha, donde hay leyes y hay, digamos, financiación pública asociada a toda esta política de rehabilitación, este tipo de discursos y de proyectos de investigación pueden tener también calado. Es decir, hasta qué punto se establece una conexión que no solamente se va a centrar, no se puede centrar en la detección de iconos, ¿no? Que están funcionando estupendamente bien, desde la defensa del brutalismo, desde determinados contextos pues, más mediáticos o de divulgación que a todo el mundo le termina calando, sino pues, en esos otros estratos que son un poco pues, desconocidos, despreciados, ninguneados, como que no son considerados pues, arquitecturas de calidad o que merecen ese respeto o esa atención. Entonces, desde esa perspectiva, donde empresas como SICA, por ejemplo, están dando servicios tanto a la mejor arquitectura que se está produciendo a nivel mundial, como al albañil de turno que habla directamente pues, con su cliente para hacer una reforma dentro de una casa y no interviene ningún arquitecto. Entonces, bueno, desde esa perspectiva creo que la reflexión o el interés de mercado, tanto de un grupo de investigación de la universidad como de una empresa como SICA o de los arquitectos en general.
Perdona, ¿puedes concretar un poco por el tiempo?
Sí, simplemente eso. ¿Cómo entendéis, digamos, que se puede establecer pues, una relación entre esa reflexión sobre el hormigón y el patrimonio con iconos a, digamos, una cultura general de base de ese hormigón pues, en el ámbito, por ejemplo, de la vivienda social, de la rehabilitación de todo ese parque inmobiliario?
Gracias. I don't know if we have been able to understand for the translation, so perhaps I could answer this member. Okay, you don't mind? George?
I do not know if I understood you rightly, but I try an answer or to give a comment, because I think it is that the question is, what is the responsibility of researchers, of heritage researchers, and also of heritage conservation? And I'm asking myself, is it enough, is it sufficient for the society to keep listed monuments as well and as at best state of conservation? Or what is the model role of conservation? And in the past we thought that heritage, that monuments, that they are testimonials of the past which are needed in the present and in the future. And I think we have also to reflect, is there a model role which can be used by other disciplines of building, of construction, following the model or the example of heritage preservation? That is the main question. So if we are able to preserve heritage sites and to create a social acceptance also of so-called ugly, of dissonant heritage, and to say it's part of our history, but it's also part as an ecological resource which should be used, I think that is a very big advantage. And this research on InnovaConcrete, it's only, I think it's the beginning. Peter mentioned that it is Horizon 2020, and there is a continuation, and there is the question we discussed yesterday, why do we have such a fantastic team of about 30 partners who work together since years, and is it responsible now to finalize it, or should we try to continue and to develop it in a new European Bauhaus program, and to say we have to continue the researches, especially on concrete heritage preservation and on concrete buildings, and also on the research how to reduce the gashouse emission of cement production, if it is possible. What kind of alternatives of building materials do we have to develop to decrease this gashouse emission? So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to think about in this final meeting, to think about what about the 30 partners, what about the interdisciplinary, about the internationally of this team, of this fantastic team. Why can we end it now, or should we try to convert it and to say there is a huge challenge which could be not answered, but which could also be treated by this team, by including maybe others, and by reorganizing the whole situation, because I think that is a real asset which is here, which should be used for the future in the context of the new Green Deal of the European Union.
Thank you, George. I think it has been a very good answer, but I only could add that the other thing we should do is fight with the education. I mean, we have to create a new education in values. to all the students and to all the people who has to make decisions. They have to begin to get in love of heritage. They have to begin to understand that heritage is something of the history of our countries, and that we are obliged to protect it and to use the best ways to do it. No? And I don't know if there is more questions in between the people, but yes, for sure, Francesco, because I would like to make you just a very small question, Francesco.
No, just
for you.
related to this need of disseminating and raising this culture, I would only mention that in these days we have received the funding from EU from the Erasmus Plus program, which is related to cooperation partnership. It's called the ReCube. There are something like 12 universities involved. So University of Madrid, University of Minho, Delft, Rome, many other universities, and they are devoted to. So the ReCube stands for Rethink, Revive and Reuse Reinforced Concrete Structures and of the Heritage. So this will be 3 years of advanced courses on these topics, which are meant to contribute to raise this awareness, and maybe with more dedicated type of meetings and workshop. Okay.
Yes?
I would like to ask a question. So all of you at some point during your speeches remarked on environmental aspects, on holistic approach, on EU Green Deal, on climate change. And my question is about using of coal ashes to restore concrete and reinforce or even cure cracks. Because I have a team of experts in front of me, myself I come from environmental sector, so you can imagine I'm not so keen on concrete given the CO2 emissions and the coal ash dumps it leaves the planet with. What is your perception on using coal ash for restoration of concrete cultural heritage? Because we're coming up with new stuff, new materials, new research, but maybe we could try to use what we have, that otherwise it's very toxic and dangerous to ourselves. What is your perception on this?
Danny or Peter?
Unfortunately, I haven't had much experience in trying that, but I believe everything is worth trying, and we should be reusing materials wherever possible. So I don't have kind of actual experience in that, so I'm sorry I can't answer. I don't know your opinion.
No answer.
I'm not sure if I have understood well your question. So you are proposing to use fly coal ashes as a supplementary materials to use in the reparation of this kind of material? What's your question? Okay. So the point is that probably you are speaking about the use of geopolymers or some kind of alkaline cements. So are you speaking about this? Because I mean, this kind of material is usually used as a pozzolanic, but doesn't have hydraulic properties per se. So if we want to use it, we'll have to create some kind of cement using this as another component, but you will need an original hydraulic binder. Otherwise, if you want to use these coal fly ashes, you can use it as a precursor to create a new cement. In fact, already there are several types of cement called geopolymers. But we'll have to study the compatibility between these new geopolymers with the original substrate, because the systems are completely different. The second one has a lot of alkalis, and alkalis are not really good for cement. So I wouldn't use, especially for the reparation of cultural heritage concrete, but yeah, but it's a way that we can explore it.
Some more questions in the floor? Fernando, I don't know, we are in time. We have more time or not? Maria, we don't have much.
Just we finished this part of the conference today, but I would like to say thank you very much to all people on the table. I want to say thank you very much to ICOMOS, because ICOMOS is one relevant, important partner in the project. InnovaConcrete is InnovaConcrete, and the results of InnovaConcrete are a lot of results, are very significant results. The reason is because ICOMOS is participating, is taking part in the project. And I want to say thank you to Pedro Ponce, Paolo, Fazio, Peter Cox, all people, and of course to all the partners, to the people involved in InnovaConcrete, especially Fernando, Gani, Kyle, Stefania. Sorry, because a lot of people is involved in InnovaConcrete. You did a very, very nice work. I like the words from George Haspel. InnovaConcrete is the beginning. InnovaConcrete is the beginning of the project, of the work, of the task. We have a lot of tasks, and I hope that in the future we are going to join again, with new objectives, with new targets, with this very, very important, very significant target that is the historic concrete. And I would like to remark on another works today on the table regarding to the sustainability. I think that one important and significant action in InnovaConcrete was to promote the restoration, to conserve the monuments, the historic monuments, but another important feature is that is associated to produce, to promote the permanence of the buildings. We have buildings, and we need the sustainability of these buildings. And this idea, we need to work together to produce, to promote these relevant results in InnovaConcrete. Thank you very much to ICOMOS for this very amazing work in InnovaConcrete. Thank you very much. And now Rafa is going to explain now how we are going to reach to the bus to go to Jerez. Now we are going to Jerez to Bodega Tío Pepe, and please the details about that.
Okay, as you will know, because you can check in the program, now we are going to have a visit to the winery in Jerez. And also the lunch and the afternoon and the evening sessions will be also there. So to go there, we'll go everyone together. The bus will wait us across the street. And my colleagues from the organization will guide you. So please be in time and be all together, so we don't miss anyone. And okay, now in Spanish, ¿no? Sí.
En español.
Y ahora vamos, en español, por si, digamos, para el que no haya entendido en inglés, ahora mismo, como está el programa, iremos hacia la bodega Tío Pepe en Jerez, y los autobuses nos van a esperar cerca del edificio Olivillo, que está avanzando un poco en la calle. Mis compañeros de la organización vamos a bajar todos juntos, y estarán mis compañeros de la organización pues guiando a todos los participantes. Así que nos vemos, y por favor que nadie se quede rezagado, que no queremos que nadie se quede en tierra.